Hello lovely people, I have been buying books and then I had a birthday, so I've got quite a stack to talk about and I just thought I would dive into it.
Sophie Vlogs.
So I have called this a birthday book haul. Actually, I just realised the other day that I've done a really bad job of actually recording a haul of any of the books I've bought pretty much most of this year. So there'll probably be another one of these later as well. Before I dive into the birthday books, I thought I would just go into sort of like arcs that I have received. The lovely Olivia Savannah at Olivia's Catastrophe did a giveaway on her Bookstagram, I think partnered with Book Break, and so I won a copy of Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, which I am super excited for. This is a YA murder mystery, and so much about it is ticking so many of my boxes. It is like set in a crumbling Cornish house that is on this private island that gets cut off when the tide comes in. So this family have been called together by the grandmother who wants to like announce her will because she's dying or something, and the family have not been reunited for many years. I believe it's set at Halloween. It's very much doing homages to Agatha Christie, and obviously while we're on this private island and they're cut off from the mainland, someone dies and a mysterious poem is left behind. And I feel like this is drawing on a lot of like little mystery things that I like. Came with some really lovely little things. I've got a little map of the house, I've got a little family tree, I've got a little bag of clues, and a little pin. So I just thought I would share that one. I'm very excited to take part. I also received a copy of Waking the Witch by Rachel Burgess. I beta read this book, which was fabulous, and I've never done it before, and I actually would really like to do it again. I had a really good time. I really like editing. I mean, part of my job involves editing, so I enjoy it, but again, this is like a YA. This is drawing on a lot of Arthurian and Welsh mythology, which are already buzzwords for me. We're following Ivy. She is searching for her mother. Search takes her to this Welsh island, and as she arrives, she's like being haunted by these shadowy figures, and there is a lot more going on than initially seems. This is drawing on the Sisters of Avalon, which is an element of Arthurian mythology that I don't think is explored that much, and I really liked how it was incorporated in this. One of my favourite things about this was a lot of the settings and the atmosphere was very evocative. Like, I was really pleased that the lighthouse was on the cover, because the like descriptions of the lighthouse and this like red light from it were very like atmospheric. Obviously I did give some like feedback on things that I felt didn't work as well for me in the book, namely like the pacing and some stuff with the romance love interest. So I'm going to be really interested to read this and see what is different, because, you know, like that's the nature of beta reading. You give the things you love, you give the things that you are like, oh, maybe this didn't work for me as well. And I'm sure lots of people will have given lots of different feedback. So I'm going to be really interested to see like what is the same and what is different. But I was super excited to receive a finished copy of that. I work for publishers. Sometimes we receive books in the post. This is Magicborn by Peter Bunzl. I really like Peter Bunzl's Cogheart adventures. I think they're a really great middle grade series, and also I know that he does a lot of writing that is specifically like very much designed for kids who have dyslexia to be able to find it a lot easier to read. He does a lot of like mixed media in his books. This one, the year is 1726 and the Royal Sorcerer of England is on the hunt for those who are magic-born. When Tempest is captured, she is taken to Kensington Palace alongside a boy like her. They are actually the lost prince and princess of Fairyland, bound by a deadly curse, but now the fairies are coming to get them, and with the truth revealed, can they both survive? I really enjoy like fairy tale riffing off of things, and I really enjoy Peter Bunzl, so I claimed this one. Right, on to some birthday books. So my lovely partner got me 2 books for my birthday. The first one is Femina by Janina Ramirez, which is one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I'm so happy to have it. This is a new history of the Middle Ages through the women written out of it, and I've only read the prologue so far, the introduction, and it is so good. I love everything that she's saying about like just refocusing the spotlight, and I really trust Janina Ramirez. I really love her programs, so I'm really excited to dive into that one very soon. He also bought me Hungry by Grace Dent, which I have already read. I love Grace Dent. I've been watching too much MasterChef, and every time she makes an appearance on it, it makes me so happy. I love the way she just like talks about food and acknowledges like that food doesn't have to be like extraordinarily fancy to be like a comfort. This was really interesting. I really enjoyed learning more about her life. She comes from a very working class background, And I wasn't really aware of how she got into food writing. She was more like she was a journalist before she became a food writer, and I really enjoyed that sort of perspective. It was a lot of fun. My lovely mum got me Christina Rossetti, Poems and Prose. I love the Pre-Raphaelites. I'm actually reading a collection of poetry by Dante Gabriel Rossetti at the moment, and currently I think that Christina Rossetti is a better poet, so I might end up going from that into this and sort of just like compare the siblings. But I only really know Goblin Market because I studied it, but it is one of my favourite poems, and then like Remember Me and that kind of thing. So again, I'm excited to get to know her a bit better. My lovely dad continues the tradition of buying me 2000 AD comics. This is Slaine. Which one is this? The Treasures of Britain. I know that this is drawing on King Arthur and Camelot, which again, buzzwords for me. Slaine originates from 2000 AD. He is very much inspired by Irish mythology and Irish concepts of what a hero is. He has this ability to go like berserk, where he really like warps into this like otherworldly kind of figure. The sort of recurring thing in Slaine comics is that he gets like brought back at different points in time. So I've read one where he's like involved with Boudica. There's like stuff like that. He's never like what I like about the Slaine comics is I find it interesting how each different one sort of interacts with history and that kind of thing. They're not like my favorite 2000 AD comics, but I find them an interesting one to return to. So that's very kind of my dad. And then my lovely friend Mark got me X-Men Milestones, Inferno. I have a real soft spot for Ilyana Rasputin, also known as Magic. She is one of my like X-Men faves, and my friend Mark is like such an X-Men expert. We did a couple of podcasts. We did like a podcast quiz that was all about the X-Men, which I will link down below because it was a lot of fun. It was a really great way for me, who knows nothing about X-Men. Well, I know little bits, but it was a really fun way for me to sort of like learn more about them. But he really introduced me to magic. Well, no, actually, I introduced myself to magic when I was a child because there was like an X-Men comic that I really liked that had like Marrow and magic and stuff in it. But Mark has like provided me with more magic comics, and so she's just a figure that I really like. So I'm really excited to read this. And then I also bought myself 2 books for my birthday with kind birthday gifted money. So the first of those is Remembering Shanghai, by a memoir of socialites, scholars and scoundrels by Isabel son Chao and Claire Chao. Following, this is sort of like a memoir of their family's life, and we follow Isabel, who grew up in like the 30s and 40s in Shanghai and was sort of like a socialite, and then obviously like Mao's rise to power and how this affected the family. I've been sort of just like exploring memoirs from Chinese writers, for example, Life and Death in Shanghai, Wild Swans, God, what was Zhao Lugo's one called? Can't remember. And then this one, just to sort of like, you know, not to be obvious, China is so big. And even though a lot of these books overlap in time periods, because China is so big, each person's experience is so different, especially based on where they are from. I thought that just sounded like an interesting book to explore. And then also, I'm so excited for this one, The Way Through the Woods of Mushrooms and Mourning by Long Lit Woon. I've been loving mushrooms recently. I'm not the only one, but I absolutely loved Merlin Sheldrake's Entangled Life. This one is an exploration of mushrooms, but it is also an exploration of mourning. I believe that Long Lit Woon lost her husband, and this is sort of really looking at grief. So this is much more of like a personal memoir than Entangled Life was. I think this is a beautiful edition. I've heard really lovely things about this, and I'm really looking forward to giving it a go. Moving on, I went to see my gran, and she gave me some books that she thought I might like. The first of these is Mabon and the Guardians of Celtic Britain, Hero Myths in the Mabinogion by Caitlin Matthews, which she herself had always meant to read and has not got around to it and just thought she would give it to me instead, and I'm going to report back and tell her what it's like. I have read the Mabinogion. I really like the Mabinogion. I love Welsh mythology. I'm interested to sort of, this is the reader's companion to the Mabinogion. So Caitlin Matthews unlocks the encoded meanings of this text. And yeah, I think maybe like some drawing things out of that will be interesting to read about. She also gave me some reference books. these 3 books are all sort of like references of like nature. So the illustrated books are Flowerless Plants, which is edited by B.E. Nicholson and F.H. Brightman. This is like mushrooms, ferns, lichens, that kind of thing. The illustrated book of trees, and then the illustrated book of insects. I have already used this book to identify which species of mushrooms sprung up in my garden the other day. They were only there for 1 day, and then they sprung back down again, but I correctly identified them, and I cannot tell you how thrilled I was to do so. So those are just some fabulous reference books that are now in my life that I'm sure I will use from time to time. My very nice friend lent me 2 books. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I have been hearing so much about this book. If you don't know what this one's about, we're not really following Shakespeare. Shakespeare is a character in this, but we are like positing the lens on his wife, and it's sort of focused on like losing their child, Hamnet, and I've heard that it's like deeply sad and emotional, and it's going to make me feel all the feels. I've only ever read a book by Maggie Farrell that was one of those that sort of like to a timeline in the past, a timeline in the future, and it was perfectly fine, but I wasn't like blown away by it. But I've just heard so many things about this one that I was like, gonna give it a try. And then also, I did mention this in my July TBR, Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I did dip into this one. It didn't immediately hook me, but I am going to still give it a go. We're looking at like Clara is an artificial friend, and she's been in the store for a very long time, and then eventually like someone takes her home, and sort of like looking at the question of like, what does it mean to love? We'll see what it's like. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not, but I'm going to give it a go if nothing else. The next section of this is, you'll have heard me mention the Book Barn before if you've watched any of these hauls. The Book Barn have relocated, aka I think they've gone under a bit. And so they had a massive sale where it was like, everything must go. And they did discounts. Like if you bought 6 books, it's like every book was £1. And if you bought 6 books, you only had to pay for 5 books and all that kind of thing. So I got a lot of books. So I'm going to go through them in no particular order. First of all, this is Njarl's Saga, which is translated by Magnus Magnusson. This is like an Icelandic prose saga. I have dipped into the odd Icelandic saga. I've heard lots about this, specifically Elizabeth at Bookish North. She does Saga Along, and I believe that they read Njarl's Saga at some point. This translation is by Magnus Magnusson and Herman Palsson, and they translated my copy of the Orkney Inga Saga, which I read last year. So I thought they would be safe hands to go for. Also picked up Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. The only Charlotte Bronte I have read is Jane Eyre, and I really like it. I think that Rochester is a shit, but I love a lot about how the book is written. There is a booktuber who I'm really blanking on names today. There is a booktuber who I will link below who I believe really liked this book. I also think maybe Cara at Wild Book Garden liked this book, and I trust her bookish taste immensely. And essentially, I just thought I'd give it another go. I haven't been reading a lot of classics lately, and I kind of like to dip my toe back in, so I thought that could be a good one. I also picked up this lovely edition of Elizabeth and Her German Garden. I have read The Solitary Summer by Elizabeth von Arnim before, which was lovely. I believe this is literally just her writing about her beautiful garden, and I'm very much here for that. I like that kind of thing. This is Rubens by Burkhardt. This is sort of a like a biography of Rubens, but also looking at his art. There is some like the back has lots of plates of his artwork. Spoiler alert, there's going to be quite a lot of artist books here because they just had loads, and I thought that this is my opportunity to really dive in. Continuing on that theme, The Lives of the Artists by Vasari. I did an art history module in my first year of university, and it has stayed with me, and I talk about it all the time. If I had all the money in the world, I'd go back and I'd do an art history degree. This was obviously a very seminal text, and it was talked about a lot in that, and this is translated by George Bull. This is a condensed version, and I believe it's only 1 volume, but I just thought, like, why would I buy the uncondensed version before I know if I like it? So I thought, give it a crack, see what it's like. My final arty books are these 2, which have these beautiful, like, drawings on the front. This one is G.F. Watts and Giovanni Bellini. Again, they're just sort of like introductions to their work, and then with plates of their work, and I couldn't turn them down. I think that they're beautiful. I'm really looking forward to getting to know both artists better. I know Bellini already. I don't really know G.F. Watts, and I just thought this is a great opportunity. I picked up Figures in Silk by Venora Bennett, which is historical fiction. I've previously read Venora Bennett's book that was about the family of... he was martyred, Thomas More, and it was looking at his eldest daughter who he had a particularly close relationship with, and it's one of those where actually the portrayal of Thomas More has really stayed with me as this person who is viewed as like a martyr by some but like an absolute terror by others, and it really has influenced how I view him as a historical figure. This one is set in the court of Edward IV. We are following the daughters of John Lambert. So the elder daughter Jane had an affair with Edward IV, while her sister Isabel was the new silk weaver at court, and she becomes privy to like its intimate secrets. I just thought I'd give Venora Bennett another go, to be honest with you. Have some historical fiction. Another piece of historical fiction is The Shield Ring by Rosemary Sutcliffe. This is about a group of Vikings doing a last stand against a group of Normans. Rosemary Sutcliffe I've heard about because of she's done some Arthurian fantasy, and I just thought that I would give her a go here, and if I like this then I will pick up her Arthurian fantasy. I picked up this stunning Folio Society edition of Moll Flanders. I studied Moll Flanders when at A-level, but only like an extract. I don't know if I'm gonna like it, because I know that it's kind of like she lived a life of sin and then she redeemed herself and died, and I feel like there might be some strong moral judgments that I'm gonna really disagree with. But I thought if ever I was gonna give it a go, this is my time. I do think this edition is lovely, and I feel like I've grown as a reader. Obviously, I've grown as a reader since I was doing A-levels. It was like 10 years ago. And so I think maybe I have the capacity to enjoy it more than I did at that time. This beautiful edition, I just picked up beautiful editions of books, guys. They were so cheap. This is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I read Brave New World for the first time when I was doing my A-levels, when I was 18, and it blew my mind, and I loved it. This idea of you don't have to burn the books because you just create a society where no one even wants to read them in the first place very much stuck with me. I'm just really interested to see how I feel about it now, because I'm sure I've forgotten so much about it other than like that bit. I also got Daphnis and Chloe by Longus, which is a piece of classical writing that is like a Greek myth. I just thought it has this beautiful, beautiful illustration in the front. I was like, hey, I've always meant to read that myth, never have. And then the final book from the book barn is Taliesin by Stephen Lawhead, which was book 1 of the Pendragon cycle. Arthurian fantasy in it, yes. I have previously tried a different book by Stephen Lawhead and I didn't really get on with it, but I thought, hey, maybe I'll like it more if it's Arthurian mythology, so gonna give it a crack. Okay, I will just go through the random selection of extra books and then potentially some ebooks, and then we'll be done. So, I got Pre-Raphaelite Women by Jan Marsh. I did not realise how big this would be when I ordered it secondhand. I obviously love the Pre-Raphaelites. Jan Marsh is very much like a authority. She's just written a lot of books about Pre-Raphaelites, and I thought that this was a smaller book. However, it has some beautiful full-page prints, and I'm just excited to learn more. Always more to learn about the Pre-Raphaelites. Never enough. I also got Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, because I have been buddy reading them with my friend. The reason I'm not showing you Royal Assassin is because I am actively reading it currently and I don't know where it is. I did not love the first one of these. I thought it was fine. I don't really currently understand why everyone loves it, but I'm willing to have my mind changed, and I think I'm enjoying the second book more than the first book, I'm not sure. But I'm committed to buddy reading the whole trilogy initially with my friend, and I think I'm enjoying it more through discussing it with her for sure. So that's something that I'm really enjoying. So got that to dive into soon. I picked up The Clocks by Agatha Christie. I don't know what this one is about, but I am determined to read all of Agatha Christie's books, so that's that. I also picked up The Fionnuala Tapestry by Guy Gabriel Kay. I love this trilogy. It's one of my favourite fantasy trilogies. It's comprised of The Summer Tree, The Darkest Road, and The Wandering Fire. Did I get... No, that's the wrong way around. The Wandering Fire and then The Darkest Road. I have always wanted to own my own copies of these because I love them. I think that these copies are really beautiful. I am rereading them. I've reread this one so far, and I want to reread these two because I just want to make sure that my memory of them is like accurate and that I do still absolutely love them. But so far, I do. Gabrielle K really knows how to rip my heart out and make me cry. So can't wait for those. I picked up some poetry, which is a little bit abnormal for me. This is Poems by Wang Wei. I previously bought one of those little penguin black classics that was 3 Tang Dynasty poets. I don't think I've posted the wrap-up where I talked about it yet, but I will be. And of the 3 poets, Wang Wei's poems really, I really connected with them. They were very beautiful, timeless in a way, and very peaceful and still, and gave me a lot to think about. So I thought I would buy a whole collection of his work. He is from around 699 to 761 AD, writing during the golden age of poetry. He's considered one of the greatest poets in Chinese literature. He was a devout Buddhist, and they very much are, they're very contemplative, they're very lyrical, and I'm just really looking forward to exploring his poetry further. I also have Of Tales and Enigmas, short stories by Min-Soo Kang. I read, oh God, what is it called? I read a collection that was like science fiction and speculative fiction by authors of colour. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I will write it in the description down below, and I will link to the video where I talked about it because I believe that is already up. And Min-Soo Kang's short story in that was one of my favourite. It really stayed with me. There was a lot about perspective on history and who gets to tell the tale, and even when you're trying to retell to give voice to people who didn't have their voice, what biases are you bringing already, and that kind of thing. So it made me really intrigued to check out a whole collection of their work. I've already read this book, but this is Small Bodies of Water by Nina Mingyar Powell's. I have previously read Nina Mingyar Powell's book, Tiny Moons, which was a year of eating in Shanghai, which is food writing. These are essays that the thing that ties them together is that they all come back to water in some way. I read this on my library app, and I did enjoy it, but it was one of those where I was like, I don't get on that well with reading on my phone. I don't like reading on my phone, and I try out my library app anyway because I'm like, it's my library, I want to support the library. I don't get on with reading on the phone very well, and I felt like I would appreciate this more if I had a physical copy, because there was one essay that was on Studio Ghibli films and water that really stayed with me, and some other stuff like that. So I thought I would buy, this was a secondhand copy that I saw in a charity shop anyway, and I was like, I'll give it a little bit and then I'm going to reread it, and I think I'll get more out of it on a reread. And then final physical book is Pandora by Susan Stokes Chapman, which has these beautiful sprayed edges. Aren't they stunning? This is set in London, 1799. Dora Blake is an aspiring jewellery artist who lives with her uncle in what used to be her parents' famed shop of antiquities. When a mysterious Greek vase is delivered, Dora is intrigued by her uncle's suspicious behaviour and enlists the help of Edward Lawrence, a young antiquarian scholar. There's some stuff to do about a vase and a mystery and beautiful end papers. I'm already on board. I think that sounds great. A couple of ebooks and then we'll be done. This has been going on for a really long time. I'm very, very hot. Hoo boy. I bought All About Love by Bell Hooks, which is a non-fiction book that is Bell Hooks writing all about love. I've always meant to check out Bell Hooks. This will be my first one. I'm excited to give it a go. I also picked up Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I love Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is a Gothic novel that is following our main character. It's something like her sister was married into this family and she gets this letter that is asking her to come there, and then when she's there, there's obviously something going on and she's trying to ascertain what it is. Very much suspenseful kind of Gothic things, and I'm really intrigued to read Silvia Moreno Garcia doing Gothic because the only ones I've read of her so far are more romance based, so I'm intrigued by that. I picked up Shorefall by Robert C. Bennett, which is the sequel to Foundryside, and Foundryside I gave 5 stars to because I loved it. What I liked about it was the way that sort of the magic worked. So our main character, when she touches objects, she can sort of apply logic to them. So she could get a wall to fall down because the bricks are I am strong, I am stable, I stay in place, and she can be actually, don't you realize you're liquid now? And then it will fall apart. And that entire magic thing, loved it. Frankly, might need to reread the first book before I read the second book because I don't remember very well what happened. I picked up Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, which is a retelling of the myth of Ariadne. I wasn't hugely intrigued by Ariadne, but I am really intrigued by Electra, which is her second book, but frankly Ariadne was discounted, and I thought I'd give it a go as like to get a sense if I like her writing style, and then if I like her writing style I definitely want to buy Electra, because that is a myth that I'm just like more interested in. But we'll give it a crack and we'll see what it's like. I also picked up Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Sugimura, which I have already read. It will be coming in my August wrap-up. This follows this girl who is not going to school. She's very lonely, she's very isolated, and one day her mirror starts glowing and she steps through and she enters this castle where there are 6 other children, and they're told by this wolf queen that there is a key in the castle, and if you find the key and you take it to the wishing room, your wish will be granted, but only one person's wish will be granted. And then we go from there. It was a really intriguing, I'll go into my thoughts more in my wrap-up, but I enjoyed it and I was intrigued by it. I have Say Nothing by Patrick something, can't remember his full name, I'll put it down below. This is like a non-fiction true crime thing, and I don't read a lot of true crime, but this one is about a crime that happened during the Troubles in Ireland, and I've just heard like really amazing things about it, so I thought I would give it a go and dip my toe into true crime. And I picked up The Honjin Murders by Seishi Yokomizo, who is a Japanese crime writer. This is, I think we follow like a crime, like the character is a crime writer who is gone to this place where there was this murder called the Honjin murder, and he is like telling you about it, and it's like a closed room murder where it's like you know, like, so you're like, it seems like no one could have got in or out, but yet someone clearly did. Yes, that's everything. Those are all the books. I'll wrap it up now. I feel like this is going for a really long time. I would love to hear if you have read any of these books. Please let me know your thoughts and your feelings. Otherwise, I hope you're having a lovely day. I will see you next time for something different.